Hello and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. Alright, so the modifications have been made to this satellite. I believe it should function. It only has the one dish, so I think 3 batteries ought to be enough. I had to change the solar panel configuration and everything, but I added a little bit more thrust through an extra solid rocket booster on the lower stage to hopefully get us a little bit more of a push out of the atmosphere here, because it is a little bit heavier with that dish and everything on it than the original version that I had. So let's go ahead and get our SAS fired up. Staging all looks correct. Off to the moon! So we'll get into a normal orbit, and then I will try to get an encounter with the Mun where we come in over the poles, so we're more or less in the correct orientation that we want to be in. Communication is going to be somewhat dodgy. I'd rather be burning over the pole for our periapsis also, because we should have line of sight with Kerbin still. If we come in behind the Mun, I'm worried that our burn will be at a point where we don't have any satellite communication. So I think this is the way to go for everything here. It makes logical sense to me. We're spending a lot of money again on something that's none of this is returning to Kerbin, but you know, you gotta spend money to make money, even though this isn't part of a mission. But it'll give us the opportunity to transmit science back from the Mun, get it mapped, which at some point there'll be missions to transmit science from orbit of the Mun again and stuff too, so it will be good for that. It gives us, this will act as a relay satellite in polar orbit, so that will make landing rovers and stuff slightly easier, because we'll have more options for landing. And because really, before we worry too much about landing people, I'd rather send some sort of probe is the next step. That will actually complete the mission for transmitting data to the moon. And I'm going to do this not like how it was actually done, because they didn't really have robots and stuff back in the day. We're going to do this more like how we would do a mission like this today, which means, you know, go scout the location with a probe and then eventually send a manned mission, because it's pretty dangerous just sending dudes there and all that. Or dudettes, whichever. We have female Kerbals now. Can't forget that. Now, since there's no return for this, they should have plenty of fuel. I want to have some room to maneuver. I think we'll be in good shape, because we're already almost out of Kerbal atmosphere here and looking pretty good. So I don't like that staging at the same time we're firing the engine. Let's adjust that. I have these set as clamshells now, which seems to make things less insane when the fairings separate. So I'm happy about that. And we're probably going to shoot for an altitude of around 80 or 90, just to make sure we have the wiggle room I like to have, a little bit of a safety margin. And the game Fraps quit working. Well, that was a new one. Fraps crashed, not Kerbal Space Program. So I've just paused, and we can continue on here. Hopefully everything will work. I don't know why Fraps decided to crap the bed. It does that. It's never really done that unless I window out of something, which I don't think I hit the Windows key or anything. Maybe I did. I don't know. It's the only time I usually have those kind of issues with Fraps. Hard to say. So we want to get our time to apoaps up a little bit, because we're going to be running into a less thrusty stage here, so I'd like to have a little bit more room to play with. So let's actually pull our nose up here. It's good to pick up that speed, but at the same time. Alright, and so we should be saying sayonara to that thing. Fire the engine, and go again. Alright, it looks like we're in pretty good shape here. We got plenty of time to apoaps and all that, so almost clear of the atmosphere. We're going to have a decent amount of stuff left. Let's get our antenna activated, and we're not out of the atmosphere yet. Let's wait until we're actually all the way out, because those things are kind of sensitive sometimes. I'm gonna go for 90 just for the extra. Well, no, let's stop. What do we want? Maneuver to circularize at the next Apple apps, and go ahead and create that node. So we have a timer of 2 minutes until that happens. So we'll wait till we actually coast all the way out of here, and then I'm going to activate some stuff. How's our batteries doing? They're fine. I don't know why I worry quite so much about the power, because I have a lot of batteries on board, but with remote stuff, the two things I'm always terrified about is running out of power or running out of signal. And this time I actually put a couple of small solar panels on that lower stage, so if it does run out of so it can't run out of power when I disconnect, so we can hopefully crash it into the mun. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and execute our node. And we'll get our dish set up to target Kerbal in a minute here. Now, I'm not pointing these dishes directly at anything, so I'm not super confident with my dish pointing abilities here, but we'll see. In fact, while this is burning, let's go ahead and get this set. So we will just set this for Kerbal. That should work. Activate the dish. And it says it covers one target, so I assume that's good. Should have satellite range, stay in satellite range the entire time until we get to the dark side of the mun. So this will be a good investigation into how well our satellite network actually works. Did I turn down the force on that? I hope I did. I'd like to turn that off and basically make it into a separator. Okay, so everything's activated. I am going to work on my mun encounter here. Where is the mun? There it is. So I'm going to work on my mun intercept here and see what we get. Try to get a nice orbital. Let's set our focus view over here. Alright, so this gets me into more or less the encounter that I want. So let's go ahead and execute this. It's a 1,000 meter per second burn. Not that bad. We should have plenty to go ahead and circularize our orbit, assuming that this gets executed correctly. We'll probably be burning right under the pole, which means we should be well within satellite coverage still, too. So it's kind of a win-win. And we should see the mun rising in a second here. Try to make this as efficient as possible. Where is the mun? We might be burning a little before we even see the mun. It's kind of a funky angle we'll be burning at because we're trying to kind of loop under. It's not the usual orbit that I take. There's the mun rising exactly when it should be. Yeah, so it's not exactly the normal orbital approach that I make at all to the mun, but it should work out pretty darn well. It's a reasonable burn. I think this stage is still going to have fuel in it when we're done circularizing our orbit, very likely, or at least close to it. So if this works for this, we'll be sending one of these bad boys out to Minmus at some point as well. I'll have to strap an extra instrument to that one since I have a mission to scan it with something, but it's like a $6,000 instrument and it won't be returning, so I'm a little bit leery of doing it until I know that it works. But if this one works, then then Minmus will be more trivial. I won't even worry about having as nice of an approach because it's not hard to change my inclination out there and all that stuff. So probably deactivate, even though this thing barely uses any power, just deactivate that one. I like to have that omnidirectional one because it's what I use to control the ship on its way up, but it's not really needed. Actually, it's redundant anyway. There's one on the main stage, but how did we make out? Very, very nicely. Cool beans. So, what we can do now is get our mech jab ready to go here. And let's go ahead and warp out there. I would like to change my focus back to my ship, please. And now comes the scary part of making sure that our satellite network works correctly. Got a lot of money riding on these things and kind of getting to a point where money is a little tight, so not used to really considering money in this game. I played for a long time with no economy. Looks like our satellite coverage is beautiful. Alright, sphere of influence change. Let's slow it down. And excellent. So, create our node. Oh, at the periapsis, you fool. Inclination's a little bit off, but it's not too bad. I could probably fine-tune this maneuver to make it a little bit nicer, even if I want to. But I might just do it as a separate burn. Let's burn... Would this way do it? No, that's kind of like just rotating my orbit around, which is not necessarily what I want. So let's go ahead and I'll just fiddle with that when we get there. Create and execute. We'll have plenty of fuel. I'm not concerned about making this perfect, like the most efficient approach in the history of the universe or anything. Just get it into orbit. We can fix it from there. And just like I thought, we'll have satellite coverage for our burn. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Remote tech really does add a lot to this game. It makes it, I mean, a lot more stressful. These unmanned missions are usually not as stressful as the ones with Kerbals for some reason, even though Kerbals don't really matter, but they matter to me a little bit. But it makes you feel a lot more worried, at least me. It makes me feel a lot more worried on these missions with having the satellite relays to worry about and stuff. Alright, so probably... Well, we'll look into how much it's going to cost to change our inclination. I was saying I'm probably going to ditch this and crash it into the Mun in a minute, but we might as well use the fuel on board this if we can to, let's call that good. Change our inclination. So, change inclination to, let's say 90 degrees. What does that cost us to do? Not hardly anything. Where is the maneuver node? That is on the dark side of the Mun, so that one is not going to work out. Let's try the descending node. That one will work out. So, execute. Not going to bother worrying about deploying the scanner until we're actually in position here. I don't know how exact the orbit needs to be, whether it has to be like within a certain percent. I mean, I'm sure it has to be within a certain percentage of 250 to work, but I don't know exactly what ideal orbit is necessarily. And I don't know for the other scanners. I know it is for this one, but I don't know for any of the other scanners. Alright, our teensy tiny little burn here. And awesome sauce. So let's go ahead and deploy our scanner. See if it says it's ideal or not. Oh, that's pretty. Ideal. Okay, so we'll call it good. And gotta think here. I think we're done with all of this stuff. I want to leave my orbit info up. Delta V I don't care about. Maneuver planner I don't care about. I want my smart ass and decouple. And make sure our thrust is off. Do a teensy tiny burn here just to get nudged away. And we will shut down that engine. That's just for course corrections and stuff pretty much. Let's go burn. Please don't smack the ship. Let's burn towards the Mun just to get clear. So we don't jostle our ship when we deorbit this thing. For some reason this feels really disorienting. I don't know why. Alright, we'll just let that smack into the Mun. So, we have successfully deployed our another satellite. I'm going to have to wait until, let's see how our Mun scanning's doing. Celestial body, Mun. Alright, our orbital distances look pretty evenly spaced and nice, so it should get the Mun done relatively quickly. And I think that's going to be it for this episode. When we come back, we'll probably launch one of these out to Minmus and see what else we've got cooking after that. So thanks for watching. Catch you next time.